So we'll call the meeting to order. You'll join me in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I think I did it yesterday, so I turned mine off. Okay. All right. We have a quorum?
You and Elizabeth are on, so yes.
Yeah, we do. Okay. Anything, would you like to make a motion for approval of the agenda?
Yes, I approve, or excuse me, I motion that we approve the agenda.
Okay, second. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Hey, aye.
Okay, passes. Public comments? Okay, no public comments. Ms. Hay, would you like to make a motion for approval of the committee meeting minutes of November the 14th and December the 5th?
Yes, give me 1 second. I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull this up so I can follow along. I was having technical difficulties with internet. 1 second.
If you were in Hilton Head, we had a hurricane threat earlier today, so. Tornado.
Yes, I heard there was a tornado threat as well, so it's just one of those days. I motion that we approve the Finance Committee meeting minutes from November 14th, 2024 and December 5th of 2024.
Okay, I second the motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Hey, aye.
Okay, duly motion and second and approved. All right, Financial Service Department responsibility. CFO Crouch.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. So in your packet is a financial services responsibilities. This is a document that was provided to the new board members back in December. And it was a format, actually, I do not take credit for the format. Alice Walton came up with the format, and I felt like it was a great one-page visual of all the not all of the responsibilities, but some primary responsibilities in our areas. So I followed along her with her format. And I thought it was important to sort of begin this newly formed committee with kind of just a briefing on the areas of responsibility of the finance under my responsibility. What you won't see here is technology. It is also primarily my responsibility. But Mark Shohan does a great job, and they have a separate committee as well. All right, so I've categorized them in major areas. Accounting each of these areas is managed by a team, a director and a team. And primarily we have payroll that's I put at the very top. That is we have one of the largest employers in the county with about 3,000 employees. We prepare quarterly payroll reports, financial, state and federal reporting, W-2s, all of that. And then we also have accounts payable. We have actually 3 people in payroll, 1 person in accounts payable. We do daily accounting journal entries. We facilitate the annual external audits. Sometimes they come a little more frequently than annually. Prepare the quarterly financial reports. You saw a report, or you'll see a report today, I believe. Or we did it last time. I can't recall at this point. I think we're doing it today. Okay. And we manage the cash flows, make sure there's cash in the bank to make sure all the payments and bills, and monitoring investments from the county treasurer makes, reconciling to county ledger. So that's just an example of one of the major responsibilities. And I'm not going to read every cell of this. I'll let you all do that. But the budget is a primary responsibility that's led by Jennifer Hamblin, who's here today. And she is already hitting the ground running. We are well underway to the next budget season. We prepare the budget book in that area, that team does. We manage the capital expenditures of the referendums, the 8% projects, and any other capital projects within her department. That we serve as liaisons to the clock committee. I presented last night a bond update, which you'll see later in today's meeting as well. And if I don't attend, some of our staff attend. And Riverview Charter School, we handle all of the flow through payments that are managed by that. Procurement is actually that's through Kaylee Yinger. We have a few people out today. Actually, 4 of our 5 directors are either out sick or managing loved ones, helping loved ones today. So me and Jennifer are in finance today. Internal controls, we've revamped our internal control audit process. So we are actively auditing our schools. We work in conjunction with the bookkeepers to check to make sure that they are trained properly, they're following the procedures, and then retraining them throughout the year. I think we have trainings once a month that are managed to make sure that we're staying in compliance. Special revenue is managed.
Can I just ask a question, please, ma'am?
Sure.
Who heads up internal controls for you?
That's Cindy Phillips. And she may even be on, some of those folks may be online today with us, listening in if they're feeling well enough, but she manages E-rate. She does oversees the internal controls area and parent support organizations, or PTOs, PTAs, and booster club compliance. She approves all the journal entries, both ACE and Beaufort County. Quarterly, she does all the quarterly financial reports or compiles the work of all the other accountants in the department to give you those. And she does all the legislative financial impacts. Every day we receive something from the State Department saying, there's this bill out there. How much is this? What fiscal impact is this bill going to have on your district? So we look to see, talk to the appropriate people, whether depending on the department, and we prepare that fiscal impact and send it back to the State Department. So there's that, those come pretty fast and furious this time of year, actually. So we monitor the tax revenues in her office as well. She and I both do that together. That's a pretty intensive, higher level responsibility there that affects so many things. And bond payments, she makes sure the bond payments are paid timely as well. So we're kind of cross-functional, but we have segmented responsibilities and some crossover. Ms. Denise Matson is in charge of special revenue and grants. She's out today as well. And she manages all federal, state, and local allocations or grants that we have, and in addition to student activities. So she has a staff, about 3 ladies that assist her in Title I, IDEA, all those federal grants and allocations there. Then we manage BJ ACE, our vocational school. Katie Abar handles most of the accounting and budgeting for ACE with help from others in the department. It's sort of a training ground. It's a $3.5 million budget, and it prepares, it's preparing her for working on something much larger size budget of $300 million at some point. But she's also a budget analyst and doing cross-functional duties there. Food service is also under my responsibility. That's why Walter Mooney is here today. He's the general manager for the nutrition group, and we have an operational expectation today. And there's a lot of compliance there. It is almost solely, now that we're on community eligibility with all schools, which is the free lunch and breakfast program. It is almost entirely USDA revenue, so federal revenue program. So there's a lot of compliance that goes along with that. And he oversees that program for us. And that concludes my summary.
Anybody question? Ms. Hay, you have a question, comment?
No, sir, I do not. I'll pipe up if I do. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, ma'am. Colonel?
This is fantastic. I've never seen this laid out like this before. This really shows in one page the vast responsibilities and pieces that have to be monitored every day. This is really, really invaluable. Thank you.
Ms. Gordon, questions, ma'am? Comments?
I do not have any questions. I do want to thank her for this report, and I'll catch up with you guys. Yes, ma'am. But I appreciate you. Thank you.
I have two brief ones. One is, who heads up accounting for you? I didn't.
Lori Mock. Lori's out today as well. She's usually with us on these meetings, but she oversees payroll and accounts payable. That takes a lot of responsibility there, making sure everything's running smoothly. And basically, making sure there's a lot of cross training going on, because you have one person that knows how to run payroll, you're in trouble around here. So she is actually the backup right now of the payroll, but we're training in process of gradually training on another staff member on more and more responsibilities in that area. So she facilitates the external financial audit. So we have a portal that the auditors give us about 300 items that things they need, and she facilitates to make sure that the auditors receive every a response to every one of those items and the files that go along with it. So a lot of the detail files come from her area because of accounts payable and payroll. So, but she and I and the whole department really, has to help respond to the financial audits, but that's a big area of hers. And then constantly monitoring the cash, make sure there's enough to make payroll. We have proper amounts going to the treasurer, and watching the investment change decisions that they're making, that they're authorized by state law to make. So we're tracking those to make sure everything's in line. And then reconciling back to the county any deposits that they receive that we haven't reported yet. So we're constantly having to do like 2 to 3 way reconciliations, and bank reconciliations are massive here.
It's a full order business there. I just hadn't captured the name.
Yep,
So-
sorry. Lori Mom.
You saw the colonel sort of raise his eyebrow in appreciation when he talked about he'd never seen this before. So, and I like to just reiterate that as well.
Well, I have to hand it to Miss Walton. She came up with the format. I liked it and I stole it from her. But I like that it's all in one spot and it really summarizes the major responsibilities we have.
Then one very brief question with the changes that are taking place at the federal level. A lot of our programs, not a lot, some of our programs, as you just mentioned, are funded through federal dollars.
Yes.
Any early intel as to someone?
Yes, I actually sat on a seminar with a group of attorneys last Tuesday, and I don't recall the name, Feldsman or something like that was the name of the law firm. They were closely connected in Washington, D.C. And the main theme of the story that I received out of that was that any federal grants or federal allocations that are already obligated, were already received for the year, we've already been awarded, we're actively spending and claiming reimbursement for, are safe. They didn't use that particular word. They used rescinding an obligation would literally take an act of Congress to rescind an allocation that has already been awarded and obligated to an entity. So these grants that we're managing actively, Title I, Title III, there's probably $7 to $10 million in those two, and IDEA and Title I. This is individuals with disabilities, and Title I is our high poverty schools. There's probably, I would say, almost $10 million between those two grants. I have no concerns about the continuation of business as usual for this school year for those two grants. The only indication that I've heard of any sort of pause of our funding would have that we recently received a Stop It grant that has to do with bullying prevention, and we were approved for this grant, multi-year grant. I don't recall the exact dollar amount, but we were in the process of setting up the approvers, authorized approvers, myself, Ms. Matson, and so on, and those that were claiming the expenses. and we got to a certain point and we were stopped. So that grant has not yet been awarded or obligated, so we are in pause on the grant that has not yet begun. That is the only indication of any effect on our, that I have seen and that I'm aware of. I don't foresee any major rescinding of any major grants like Title I or IPA. They're critical needs areas that I don't believe would be paused. So that was the indication, and my sense is that it's business as usual with those major federal grants. But any new ones may be looked at a little closer.
One of the narratives that's sort of seeping out of Washington is that they really are going hard at FTE. So they're trying to reduce the number of people that is required to administer all these grants and then automate. But the actual funding may not be as much under threat as it first appeared. So that would align with what you're sensing, if that's true.
Right. And we don't typically have, well, yeah. From an administrative standpoint of the district office, we don't have a lot of staff that administer grants here or allocations. We have a couple of people in the district office, but there are positions that are paid for in our schools that are Title I or IDEA funded. But I don't foresee any major reductions in that area. So
They're talking about FTEs and VP.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, and is if there was some change at the U.S. Department of Education level, these funds flow from the Treasury to the state. So I'm not sure how much difference we would see if there was a change in that respect. So we would have to
You've already considered it in your
flexible and adjust as needed. So
okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, moving. Any comments, Ms. Hay? She said she will pipe in if she had anything.
Yes, I don't have any at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hay. Ms. Gordon?
No, not this time.
Colonel Park? Colonel.
See,
He's meeting with another colonel who is talking. 06, so I'm very different with Colonel Guy.
Thank you.
And David Carr is on as well.
Oh, Mr. Carr, any comments, sir? Question?
I am good, and I'll echo the Colonel's comments. This new format to keep track of stuff is really good.
thank you.
Outstanding. Moving along, Ms. CFO Crosby, November and December transparency report.
The board, monthly budget report, if you want to do that first.
I would like to do that for us. Sorry.
Yes, sir. So the monthly board budget report as of February 7th, 2025, it's about a 3-page report there. Yeah. So no major items to report. We're at 42% spending as of February 7th. So about 7 months into the year. So we are just slightly under half of budget used. So major areas, we have the board's salaries. We have consolidated the staffing, the 2 staffing positions, one of which is vacant right now. But we have benefits, coverages, and then auditing services. We're at is on 4th from the bottom on the first page. We're at 74% spent. That's because the bulk of the audit work is done. We will have one more bill at the end of the year they always do spring field work for about a week. And so we're likely to get another, I would say at least $6,000 invoice before the end of the year in that item. Legal services, another area, but again, we're way underspent there at 34%. So most areas are pretty far under, including travel, in-state, out-of-state, local. Board meeting stipends are 23%. And so the only major spending usually typically have as organizational dues and memberships. I think that is actually the, is that county channel? Or no, it's the SCAS
School Board
School Board
Association.
Association, and that covers our microscribe policies, where our policies reside on the website. They manage the policy administration to make sure everything's put up there and updated as we request. So I think everything looks in line, and happy to take any questions.
I
Ms.
just
Hay,
have
I'll
one.
ask- Okay, good. Please proceed, ma'am.
It's item, oh, I'm sorry. There seems to be a delay. It's object number 554000 on page 3. It looks like it was a transfer of some sort. I'm just not accustomed to seeing those, and it also looks like it's associated with a project number for equipment. So I was just curious if you knew what that line item was for.
Yes, actually, I saw this in a couple of different areas when we were looking at the quarterly financial report and asked about it specifically. And it's a little bit of a story. So every year we have governmental accounting standards pronouncements that come out. There was one particular pronouncement that came out a couple of years ago regarding leases, and any equipment that we purchased, I believe it was I think it was sharp copier machines, because we have a big lease with the sharp copiers. Our auditors at the time, not those that did our most recent audit, but in the fiscal year 23 school year, or 22-23 school year, they required us to record an expense and a liability for a lease that we never. It was almost like a duplicate payment. We had already expensed the items, but we had the auditors came in with a last minute, right before the audit was complete, audit adjustment requiring us to add a $300,000 expense and a liability on our financial statements. So as a result of that year, having that last minute adjusting entry, we budgeted in FY20, maybe that was 24 and 25 for a possibility of a last minute journal entry that would expense leases. Well, when we switched auditors from the Macon audit firm to the Columbia audit firm, the new firm, the members said, you don't have to record that journal entry. So they had a different opinion, and we did not have to record, an entry that didn't make sense to me anyway. So we were left with a budget with no spending and lease liability. So the reason for this is we budgeted for the possibility of having that lease expense, did not have it, and we removed all of those budgets from every area and consolidated them back in one account. And so we were diligent to put it in the budget and apply it to every area that had lease copier leases, like the board or finance and HR and every other category, but we ended up not needing it. Thank you. Long story, but we're happy not to have the lease payment entry at the end of the year now. So
Well, it's comforting that you've already researched it and can explain it to us. And thanks, Ms. Hay, for raising that. Ms. Gordon, any from you, ma'am?
No, thank you.
I know that's right.
No, I'm always impressed with Miss Crosby and her team, even from yesteryears. But
Yes,
for me, I have vision problems, so it's taking me a little bit longer to look at your numbers and lines. And I do appreciate your telling us about this and bringing us up to speed.
This will come up again because we have been asking future agenda topics to discuss the board's stipends. So, I think that this is something that the finance committee should probably discuss first before it comes to the board for action. the way our stipends are set up and the way the county council stipends are set up are considerably different. And I believe that is what's brought Mr. Will Smith to bring this up, is the county council stipends include your travel and all everything else. You have a set amount, one amount, and I believe it's $25,000. Is that not correct?
About 25,000 a year for everything.
And so that every board member has $25,000. And there are ways that the board member can decide that the board member spends it. And I'm not sure the details, but I'm certain that this is what's going to come out of future agenda topics. It could impact this year's budget discussions as we go forward. So I just wanted to bring that up. I think there's probably worth doing a little research, either Robin or Tanya, to check with the county, see the specific details on their stipend so that the board is aware of that.
Good point, very good point. Is that something the two of you can,
Absolutely,
okay,
yes.
so we can have an answer?
We did a little research already with our payroll department, and they looked back to 2005 and did not see an increase since 2005. Now, I don't know if there was one made that year or not, but 20 years.
20 years, there hasn't been an increase. I will tell you, though, politically, that elected boards that go out for a increase soon after an election are not looked upon wisely. That generally, if you're going to elected board going to have suggest a increase, you do it about 6 months before the election, rather than 6 months after the election, so that it could be something that the taxpayers can bring up and they feel like they will have at least had an opportunity to comment on it before the election. That's the only caution I would offer to you.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Okay, Ms. Hayes, hands up.
Yes, Ms. Hay.
Thank you, sir. My other concern on the stipend topic, which I know this isn't on our agenda today, but it would also be a concern about how this would be perceived by the public in general when we're pushing for fiscal autonomy. I'm not sure that this is the wisest move, if you will. I also did my own independent research on, which I meant to send to the full board and can do, on all boards in the state of South Carolina and what their stipends, if any, because some are not given a stipend at all, what they all receive. But just in the back of my mind, being on finance and whatnot, and just a board member in general and hearing from the public, is I'm not sure in terms of optics that would be the best. You know, do we want fiscal autonomy more than we want stipend increases, for example, or would we prefer fiscal autonomy over, you know what I mean, vice versa? So that would be something to think about as well.
Ms. Gordon? Did you get?
Well, Ms. Hay, that's a great point about the fiscal autonomy. But I know it's been at least 30 years that we've been looking at fiscal autonomy, and we still haven't gotten it. Even, I don't know why. I know there's some opposition against it. And then the other thing is, you know, the stipend costs have gone up. Gas has gone up. But, and going to the different schools, there are now 36 schools and activities that you do throughout the year. I don't think one has anything to do with the other. Personally, I think if we as a board sit down with finance or whoever we have to sit down with and look at a increase or not, And then when we talk to county council and the community about whether or not we should do fiscal autonomy, I think Ms. Crosby has done a great job giving us credence in spending the monies that the people have entrusted. So I think they're separate, and I think they should be, looked at such. When you look at what we're spending, how we're spending it, do we spend all of the money that we get every year in our budget? I don't think so. What we're spending it on, those are the things that we need to be aware of, and do due diligence with the monies that we get. But I do think that when we talk about fiscal autonomy, I think we start with this lady right here in this room, because she was, a kid when I first met her. I remember when she came on board, and she has continued to do what she does with this department and make us look so good every year. So just a food for thought. If we're going to talk about our stipend, let's look at that separate, and fiscal autonomy, because that seems to be hard pressed right now for us to get. For some reason, some people don't think that we deserve it, but we maybe need to prove to them more that we do.
Mr. Carr, Dr. Carr, did you?
I'm here.
Yes, do you have any comments on the conversation that's underway now?
Yeah, I have actually a few concerns about, we need to maybe look at all of the stipends and make some determinations if every one of them needs to be raised, or are there certain areas that are maybe not funded to the level they should be, et cetera, with the idea of some level of fiscal management.
Okay. All right. One thing I would suggest at the time, whenever it's appropriate time, and I think the point about impact on fiscal authority or fiscal autonomy is very important. Is that, like you did in conjunction with Mr. Otting for the in or out on the custodial study, very rigorous financial. You solicited input from all over the state. I think of one or two outside the state. You enlisted external experts who were not connected with us, so they could provide a little better shine of objectivity, so that politically people know we're trying our best to be honest and do ethical analysis. The second thing is, I've also seen where even when a board were to vote for an increase, they basically move it past the tenure of the people who are currently on the board, so no one can say we're self-serving. So all of us will have to rotate off beyond a certain election point. And then, hey, if the public doesn't want us back, it doesn't benefit us. So, but take your time on reviewing this. You may be a longer study.
The board.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Next item is November, December transparency.
Yes, sir. So their first report, November, it's 76 pages. I have briefly looked through that, although I see many of the transactions as I approve them daily. So my staff do as well. So I'll be happy to take any questions you all have in this area on the November report.
Ms. Hay?
Yes, I did have one question. It's on page 11. There is a chunk of red, numbers in red, which I believe are credits. I just wanted to clarify, because typically when credits are done, it specifies credit. And it begins with, I believe, item number 495.
Yes. So that is Beaufort Jasper Academy for Career Excellence, our vocational school we share with Jasper. And every single month, both Jasper and Beaufort allocate funds to a school. However, since Beaufort handles many of the functional support functions of the school, we deduct those expenses from our payment when paying ACE. So for example, operations and maintenance, $9,000. That would have been our ABM maintenance department serving and purchasing parts and supplies for ACE. On behalf of them, Beaufort pays the bill and we then charge ACE as we deduct that from their monthly payment. So we have a series of monthly payments. We manage their operations and maintenance. We manage their technology. We manage their finance. And so you'll see deductions in all of those areas. And that is for a reimbursement back to Beaufort for the cost of those services.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Gordon?
I will be honest, for years, looking at the line items means nothing to me. I mean, I can see the expenditures and things like that. But I rely on your interpretation back to me and what you're putting here. I'm not a mathematician or accountant, but have to go on faith that the numbers are correct and presented to us so that when we talk to the community, we can say, this is our budget. This is what we're spending it on, the number of chairs and whatever. So there's a lot of trust in the system and in you. And the line items, again, like I say, I can't really see them because of my vision, but I do know that I can't go through these line items personally and verify. So what you're presenting to us today, you're saying is good to go.
Yes, ma'am. Every one of these transactions has a document behind it that we can produce if there were ever any questions, and it's gone through probably at least 5 people or more before it is paid. If it's construction, especially referendum, it's got probably almost 10 approvers behind it. So you've got a number of people looking at these documents before they go and thinking about how they relate to policies of the district and the laws, local, state, federal law.
It's good to know, and I'm quite sure our constituents are happy to know that as well. So I appreciate you explaining.
Colonel Guy?
I served on the finance committee for 6 years. For 6 years, I went line by line on this report. It is the best way to fully understand the district, to see how the money is spent, where it's spent. But I'm no longer on this committee, so I did not.
It's still valuable input.
So I did not do it this time. But I have full confidence in the cross-check and the accountability, because every question I had in 6 years was always resolved in a manner that said, okay, some of them I said, well, I wouldn't have done it that way, but all of them were resolved in a appropriate manner. And I found no expenses that the public would say, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? I've encouraged this committee to continue that, but I'm not doing it.
Don't worry, it'll be done.
That's what I'm saying.
Ms. Crosby, would you like to have sort of share the conversation about variance highlighting variances so that the leadership team division is automatically drawn to those things that exceed a certain parameter?
We do produce the transparency report and place it on the website every single month. And there is a level of detail required by the state. We far exceed that with this report. However, the reporting has grown over the years, and to include 2 other reports as well, the $100,000 report, and then we consolidated that and instead anything over 100,000, we consolidate into major categories, not see 10 pages of detail. Now we'll see 1 page. And then that report was added. The detail report remained as well. So now we have 3 transparency reports, and it's a huge amount of time for staff. That's not the point. That's not the full reason, but your time is valuable as well, reviewing these documents. I think there's a better way we could do this and to maybe consolidate some of these into 1 report, to look at it a little differently. Mr. Dallas suggested looking at it in a method of variance. What went up considerably more this month than the last? Instead of bringing you 100 pages of reporting that you can't read because the letters were too small, perhaps we can do it more thoughtfully and strategically to look for the things that are major changes from 1 month to the next or 1 year to the next. So we're going to get together with our team when everybody's back and healthy and come up with a proposal, and perhaps we can bring that to the next meeting and let you take a look at it in addition to the next standard reports that we bring. And then it will be up to the board if you wish to streamline that to it now. And I have to consider there is a board policy that does require that I bring anything 100,000 or more to the board. So unless that's changed, I still need to abide by that. So I have to take all those things into consideration as well. But I think we could do this a lot better than we are. And the information has gotten so voluminous that it's so difficult to read. But it's also still going to be available. The details are going to be available on the website for all the public to see. But perhaps that could be a suggestion that we help streamline things a bit for everyone involved, including the public as well.
What may be worthy of consideration is to, before you plan your consolidation, but before you actually bring it in 2 steps, bring the current reports with showing a variance beyond a reasonable decision of this group. When is it like over and should be highlighted a color, so we can scan through this, and actually your credits are in red in these reports, but they're hard to see, right? And so, but if you can highlight that particular one in some color, so it's like, whoop, okay, on this page. And you've already done it in the credits, so I'm saying thank you for that, for being forward thinking. And then everybody can see the same reports now with the variances highlighted. Then we can adjudicate, do we want to consolidate? Because to the Colonel's point, I remember I learned a lot when I was sitting in the finance meetings, or even when he was coming into the operations meetings, how he was pinpointing things. And so we don't want to lose that, because that's very reassuring to people outside. But our eyes should be driven to those that are most critically important immediately, and that'll consolidate that. Is that okay?
Yes.
Everybody okay with that? Okay.
Ms. Hayes' hands up.
Yes, Ms. Hay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had, as I was reading through these reports, going line by line, Colonel Geyer would be proud. I found myself wondering, because I had the same thoughts as Chairman Dallas. And I don't know, my hunch is there must be a financial AI program out there where you could upload these spreadsheets that you create that are so packed full of information. And I'm curious if there is something like that. There must be, that you could put parameters around to see the influx or decreases, as Mr. Dallas was discussing, to kind of do the heavy lifting for you instead of anyone on the finance team you know, everyone can double check it. That's the best thing to do with AI. If you're ever using it, is you always want to double check your work. But if you could allow it to do the heavy lifting for your team, instead of you all having to comb through page after page and, you know, look back at 2024, the same time of the year, 2023, so on and so forth. There just must be some form of financial AI program out there that could do this for you / us. So that may be something to look into.
Yes, sir. We have been in the beginning stages in our department of learning and playing with or implementing AI and integrating it as part of our work. Writing documents, copying them in AI, letting it make it even better. Try not to let it write it for me unless I'm really unfamiliar with the topic and in a really good rush. But we've been building presentations, building graphics through Canva. It has an AI component as well. Got a few people that are really savvy with it. And so I think that's a very interesting idea that we could play with and kind of fun, actually. So we're all there are several of us that are really interested in that area. So we'll play with it, see what we can come up with.
I think you,
Mr. Chairman, I want to echo that. I hadn't thought about that. Ms. Hay, that is fantastic because you could develop a set of algorithms for the AI to look at, and you could bring the algorithms and the scopes to the board and say, these are the things that the board needs to know, the public needs to know, and let the AI run the algorithms and give you that information that you want. That's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, we'll start playing with it.
and to just piggyback on what's been said, the Stargate 5 billion that's being created, we put that on the queue for a work session so that we can look at all these various things like the Colonel was talking about, Ms. Hay, because your time is so critically important and you have so much complexity. And our thinking is more we can relieve you of that.
Our motto in our department, when we did some goal setting last year, is work smarter, not harder.
Works for us.
And we've been utilizing AI. I did a PowerPoint the other day and I realized at 4:00 in the afternoon, I had to get it done for the first thing the next morning. And with the help of another staff member, we did it in about an hour and a half. And it was 10 slides of graphics and information. It was awesome. I mean, it was really good. But we're using it in a lot of different ways. And this is hadn't thought of it in this area, but definitely something that we could play with and see what we can get it to do for us. And I'm even thinking, can it create some dashboards for us too?
There you go.
It's forms. It's forms.
Wow.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
We've done job descriptions, done some step-by-step procedures in different areas, some policy writing, give us some data, some narrative help, and it's cleaning up letters and memos and emails and cleaning up the wording and making it clearer and smoother. So we look forward to it.
Well, just to share this kind of humorously, I am the oldest dinosaur around current technology, but I did a 7-page position paper using AI. And that you have no idea what that means. That's like a human growing wings and flying. But I hope you feel the support that you're getting here. Okay. All right. That was November, right?
Yes, sir.
December?
December is a small number this year of this month of only 39 pages versus the normal 76. This was a month of less spending. December is usually relatively slow from a spending standpoint, and then fewer days in school as well. So I'm sure we're going to see that pick back up in January. I have no other specific comments. I'm happy to take any questions.
Ms. Hay, any questions?
I do not have everything looked in order. Thank you.
Ms. Gordon?
No, and I appreciate the comments on the AI and because I remember, and I know Ms. Cushenberry does too, when the financial document presentation that you're doing now, they would bring in a binder, remember, ledger of this thick. And board members would try to look smart, they're all looking at like, oh my God, you know? And so just seeing the streamlined pages has made me happy, but knowing that you're looking at other means that we can adequately be able to do talking points on this budget, I appreciate it.
Colonel Guy? Dr. Carr?
I have no comments relative to the December numbers.
Okay,
They look
thank you,
good.
sir. Next item.
Is the November 100,000 report of purchases and our contracts over $100,000. This one is several pages. And then there is a consolidated report at the end of that. Well, for the month of November. Typically, construction areas are those that have the most biggest fluctuation. I think I would point out MB construction was 4.2 million this year, was 866 last year. I can assure you that's almost entirely directed at Hilton Head High School. So that would be the. So if we think about the major construction projects that are well underway, when steel hits the ground and the building is being erected, that is the time where we're going to have the biggest amount of expenses in a construction site. So that would be the one I would point out there the most. Other than that, I'll be happy to take any questions you may have.
What about the one on PC solutions and integration from November to December?
PC Solutions,
November.
annual
Yes, ma'am.
technology support and maintenance for switches and the cloud. So the prior fiscal year, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 schools. The current fiscal year, so it was so it was a decrease from 1 year from last year to this year. IT support. So I assume that our work on the IT support and maintenance for switches had fewer schools involved this year as we completed that project, but I can follow up with any details from Mr. Shohan.
Okay, thank you, ma'am, on that. If I may follow one more on the December, the South Carolina retirement system, 6.9 in 2024 and 4.3 in 2023. And I don't know if our benefits costs went up or.
I'm not sure if I'm looking at the same one. This was November. Okay, that one's December.
Yeah. This one is on December, the other one. I'm sorry about that.
That's right. That's right. Let's see. South Retirement System.
Payrolls in the month of December in 24 versus a 2 payroll period.
Thank you, Ms. Am.
Thank you.
Okay. Any, Colonel, you normally eyeball something now. Dr. Carr?
Good. Thanks.
Ms. Gordon? Okay. Anything
I just
else?
have one quick question on the December 2024 consolidated report. And I feel as though this has been asked before, but I could not recall the answer as I was reading through the information. The Chestnut Hill Mental Health Center charges, because it doesn't show that there were any in December 2023. I also couldn't recall who those are for, if it's students or employees.
Are these individual privately placed students or one child? Okay, so these are private placements of individual students. being placed in a facility, and we are paying the facility for their room, board, instruction, treatment, and so on. So that tells me that we had a student this year in that facility, but not last year.
Okay,
Room and board charges are listed there, and this is for a 4-month, 5-month period, August through November. So there'll be another, if the child is still there, the last half of the year, we'll have another round of payments for the new year. Those will be placed by the Student Services Division.
All right, second quarter financial report. This one.
All right, the next item is the second quarter financial report for the 6 months ended December 31st, 2024. So it's a brief summary in the one-page summary narrative. Local property tax collections is usually one of the most important things we look at this time of year. I gave a board update last month that we are at 38.3%. Excuse me, last year was 38.3%. The current year is at 57.9%. So last year there was a delay in tax bills. We didn't get them out till they weren't out from the county auditor's office and they were due in December. So we didn't get the collections in the prior year that we got in the current year. So they're more on track this year to a normal status. But the real numbers that we must see are January, and January has not arrived yet. The county does have to do all of the TIF calculations that are TIF agreements that are in place to remove taxes from the accounts and then reconcile and send over to us. We should expect to see them within the next 2 weeks. I'm hoping it's next week. We may even give them a call to ask for it a little early if they can get it. But we're anticipating that, and that information, that January information is critical, both the current year and for next year's budget. So we're anxiously awaiting that, and everybody's ready to go as soon as it hits our emails. Tax anticipation note, not required this year because we're able to build the fund balance this past year again. I'm hoping not even to talk about the TAN next year. Because it's going to be long gone, 3 years old by next year, and we plan to continue to keep the fund balance percentage at the level it is now so that we are able to keep a healthy credit rating and other factors, and to keep the TAN from needing to be borrowed again. State revenues were at 57 million, 42%.
I'll be right back. I'll call them.
Yes, ma'am. And prior year collections were at 42%, 42.4. So we're slightly above where we were. Our spending is at 42.6, just a little bit below last year's spending at 44.3. That could be due to a timing of payrolls and that sort of thing. No major changes in spending patterns that I've seen this year. And then we've listed some other funds. Probably the most important, the largest funding source we have other than the general fund would be Capital Projects Fund. And we attended the COG meeting last night, and the 2019 referendum projects are 99.4% paid and encumbered as of December 31st. And 2023 referendum projects are 40% paid and encumbered. So that means encumbered, meaning we have contracts in place for vendors for the services of construction and or other expenses that purchases that are needed in the referendum projects that we're beginning to undergo now from the 2023 referendum. So things are in very good shape. I'm again anxious to see the next month, and I'll be giving a board update on the January tax revenues at our next board budget update. February work session. So we'll have a very large discussion at the March work session on the budget. And so we'll talk more about it then, but things are in great shape so far this year, and We expect things to, I'll be happy to take any questions at this point.
Our expenditures across the line are below budget time. So the only one I saw above budget a little bit was, technology data service processing. And that has a lot to do with times of outlays. And that's expected. So, there's no red flags that I see. And you didn't mention any, so I don't think there are any at all. January is going to be very, very interesting.
Yes.
And however, I predict that we're going to see increases in revenue simply because of all the apartments that are going up. That's all our revenue. And that's, I'd like to see how houses being built, because that means kids. But I also like to see these landlords who are going to be paying 6% part of our operational budget. So very, very good. Mr. Chairman, cheers.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any other comments from anyone? Ms. Hay? Did she already?
No, sir.
Ms. Gordon? Dr. Carr?
I'm good.
Hey. All right, next item, ma'am.
So OE, operational expectation 18, school food and nutrition services. I'm going to do, just go over a few items on the executive summary. So this executive summary addresses specific, each of the specific areas of the operational expectation with the board policy, either cited or mentioned. And so, and then we have some, Mr. Mooney is here and we have a few short videos for you, which were excerpts from a larger video that was a little longer. We chose to take the shorter ones and, not take up too much of your time today, but I think we had actually a public relations crew or, what do you call their division?
It was our marketing department.
Their marketing department came to Beaufort and stayed all day, maybe multiple days. 4 days. And interviewed staff, myself, Walter, others, and went around in many of our schools and took videos and excerpts of fun, just students eating lunch and having great experiences in the food nutrition program, and then displaying some of the catering that we're having done. And what impresses me the most, I think, with the nutrition group is their focus on the presentation of the food, how colorful it is, how vibrant it is, how perfectly placed it is in the live well or the wells that on the serving lines. And so that's something that I'm very impressed with, that their attention to that detail. So I'm not going to ramble on today about all of that. I'll let Walter speak to anything that he is passionate about in that area to share with you today. But we'll get started on the OE. So.
Okay, Mr. Mooney, our version of George Lucas.
So, no, the videos they were here for 4 days and visited multiple schools. I think we went to 14 different schools. We, just how nutrition group was doing and obviously in Beaufort County. We interviewed, multiple staff, principals, and I'll be more than happy to share all the video clips and all that stuff with you. But I definitely didn't want to take up your time with an 8-minute video and all that. So we picked out 2 to show you today. The nutrition group is extremely happy. Obviously, CEP went into full swing this year, so all schools are under the community eligibility. more kids are eating, both breakfast and lunch. So we couldn't be happier about that. Obviously, we want to try to get every kid involved in that, and we do different programs to try to get them involved in that with different types of nutrition education, different fun days, and all that kind of stuff to do what we can. I know Colonel Guy, we always talk about the culinary students, and we have got them involved actually coming into our kitchens and actually working in the kitchens themselves, just to get another environment, because I know they mostly teach to go towards the resorts and all that kind of stuff. But them show actually come in, get to feed the kids, show how we cook. It's a little bit different than fine dining restaurants and all that. But gets them an opportunity to get that, and they've been helping with some caterings and all that kind of stuff. So we're excited about that. We're getting ready to start some hydroponics in a couple of different schools. So the kids, and we've got clubs built up and all that. So we bought 2 units, one for Robert Smalls and one for River Ridge Academy. So we'll see how those go once they come in. Other than that, we had our state audit this year. No issues whatsoever. Passed with flying colors, which is good. I know they've had some difficulties in the past with the other company. So we had nothing we had to change, nothing, everything was perfect. They were here for 5 days. That was another fun event as well. We had all of our internal audits and everything's come back clean. So we're very happy. Obviously, always looking to improve and go further. The TCL TIDES program that started up with the community college. We're feeding all those kids over there still. And I know they're expanding to the Beaufort campus next year as well. So, anything we can do food service wise, we're happy to do. So we've put our input in on the new schools being built. The May River Elementary School, and obviously the rebuild at Hilton, just so we have all the equipment that we need in the space, because sometimes we, construction wise, they forget little things like they need milk coolers in this spot and stuff like that. So we're just putting our input in there so everything works smoothly once the kids are in. So that's all.
So I'm just going to hit a few highlights on this 2-page summary, but I wanted to make sure I met all the requirements of the OE, so that's why it's a little longer than normal. But again, we moved to the nutrition group in July 1 of 2022. I was over the previous vendor. I'm extremely pleased with this vendor and the progress that we've made, the changes that we've made, the presentation of the food, and the attention to the detail, the staffing that they have. We were really struggling with staffing, especially during COVID and just beyond. But I think they're typically at 99 or 100%.
Yeah, we're right there at 98%, somewhere in that area.
So, which has been a challenging area to get fully staffed, as many of our other areas are to fill as well. I think the community eligibility expansion to all schools was a little scary, but I believe it's been very successful.
It's working. No, it absolutely is.
Yeah. And what our biggest thing was that we didn't want participation for students to go down. So, and we see increases in that. It's been very volatile over the years, the amount of meals that we've served because of COVID. The federal government funded all meals for free, just like in 2021, 22 timeframe. So you see the meals, being a $3.5 million, and then they fell drastically the next year. That's because that free funding source changed, and we went back to a paying status in 22, 23. And then, we're in our, so we went back to a normal year in 23, 24. And then this year we're in a CEP full status where students aren't paying and the federal government is supplementing that payment in the form of USDA funds. So really 88% of the revenues in this program are federally funded. So we have a lot of stipulations. One of the stipulations is the purpose of this program is to be self-sustaining. We don't want the general fund to have to offset or support this fund. We don't want it to have to even the capital projects fund to support this fund if they don't have to. So we've been very successful in having profits in the program for the last several years, up to a point where our current fund balance, it was $9 million last year. It is now $8 million. We were able to bring it down by $1 million. by reinvesting back in our kitchens and cafeterias. We have built shade structures, outdoor dining spaces. We have replaced, when you go into the cafeterias, we are on a mission to modernize our cafeterias, are making sure they're dining spaces when there is available space to do that, and the potential shade structure. So if you see those things, those are the things that food service is buying. And I love to see the pictures of them, love to be proud of the things that we're putting in those kitchens and cafeterias. You can't see the kitchens and most of the time and what's back there, but we're putting in pizza ovens and brand new milk coolers. We found out a lot of our milk coolers are outdated, so we started over and got all new ones. Ice machines, serving lines, warming cabinets, milk coolers, steamers, ovens, walk-in coolers, dishwashers, major. I mean, we had a $1 million of investments in our kitchens in new equipment, and we still have the funding to continue that progress going forward. So we also embarked on something this year, which I'm very proud of, and that is deep cleaning our kitchens. They hadn't been deep cleaned in quite a while, many of them. And so we embarked on we went out for bid, got Serve Pro, and they did 20 kitchens between the spring and the summer. And I mean, they were on the floor scrubbing around every little piece of equipment. We saw pictures of it, and I think that it made a huge difference. We can do about 20 a year, so we're going to try to get at least the 12. Well, we'll have more buildings than just 12, but probably at least 13 more. We can do it in a 2-year rotation, and we intend to keep that going so that we have pristine, clean. We helps to reduce the possibility of rodents in those areas. And so I'm really proud of that area as well. And then we have a lot of after dinner programs supporting our after school community partnerships at 18 locations, 31 summer break sites serving 5 to 18-year-olds in our community partnerships. And our participation rates in both programs are 48%. So we're serving a lot of students in the after school as well, which just basically those revenues come right back into the program and help us to reinvest. So we're really proud of the things we're doing. We met today to talk about the use of the excess operating balance for the next year. So we're planning that out. And right after that meeting, we went into a meeting with the architects and engineers and in the facilities office and talked about the design of the Right Choices kitchen that will be coming in about 2 years, would take design and construction to be completed. So we talked about our needs to cater to feed students in the Right Choices area without having the food have to come off site. They'll have a serving line in the building just off the media center where the board meets. And we also have the ability to just roll right in, cook right here on site and roll right in for any catering that may be done here in this building. So we're very excited about it. And we may even be able to serve folks. We have almost 200 people in this building. We're looking at potentially having grab and go or serving some small choices of lunches here for the adults in this building. So as well. So we got a lot going on. So we've had a busy day today. And that concludes my part of the presentation. And now we're going to show you 3 little videos that are about 2 to 3 minutes each.
Okay.
And these are excerpts of some of our schools.
These are sound. We turned off the sound off, so I have to figure out where to turn it back on it.
So as a company, how we bring to life our motto of caring for people, serving great food really starts at the top. And every day we make it our priority to care for the people that work for us, whether it's those personal connections, caring about their life outside of work, whether it's caring for somebody who's in a crisis. That's a priority. Honestly, some days it's more of a priority than the meals that we're serving, because if we don't take care of our individuals, those meals are not going to deliver to our students.
Yes.
It's all different in the world, on the front line.
Sorry.
That's
Get some technology support.
Well, while we want to go to debt service.
Sorry.
Very concerned about this condition. Keep on.
Sorry. I'm trying to figure out. It's not that one.
Video.
Trying to show it, but it won't turn off here. Okay, I got Thank you. Okay.
So.
Got muted. Do you want to start again?
You can see it's muted. You can see it. You can see it on the screen. It's muted. There you go.
Still.
I'll be happy to send it back.
You put a lot of work into it. Hopefully we can get it.
Well,
Should I open mine?
So, yeah, but I don't want to get caught in that circle again. So go ahead and hit yours.
I want to care about what they're doing. It's not just a job.
So pick Holly, if you can, at the next corner.
Over here.
And the other thing is this device fell off of the board and we in the process of getting it down. So let me go see if I can sit down. And move to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Mooney, if you'll send it out.
I can definitely set it
Send it
out.
out. Mr. Chairman, I want to make a statement if I could.
Yep.
We are in a very difficult food service labor market in this county because of our tourist industry. And you can see that people at McDonald's, at Parker's are getting $15 an hour starting salaries in these places. And, you know, we need to talk to Horry County, Charleston County. They must be experiencing the same kind of challenges. Food services in these small rural school districts, I'm sure, don't have the competition that we do. So I have to applaud our contractor here to be able to attract and retain the people in a very difficult labor market for that specific skill set. So that's saying an awful lot what's going on here with this company. It's appreciated.
I appreciate that. It's,
The other thing is, when you were talking about that, what you are at 98%.
yes, sir.
What steps did you take to get there? Because previously we weren't at that level.
No, you were not. We had to reevaluate, obviously, starting salaries. You know, we make concessions in different areas. So the starting salary is a little bit different on Hilton Head and Bluffton and Beaufort and all that. It's just because the amount of people we have and the amount of competition and all that. We do, you know, as a company, we're a family company. You know, we're not big corporate. We're family owned. We've been in business for 50 years this year. We want to take care of our people. So that's what we had to look at, where the salaries were, starting salaries, you know, where they were when we took over from Sodexo. You know, we bumped everyone immediately. And then it was a slow process just because of the number of people. I think we're at 65, 70% staff when we took over. So it did take a while to get to that point, but now we're constantly bringing more people in. There's technology wise, geofencing the ads on Facebooks and all this other stuff to get you out there. You know, getting into the schools, let them know, because we do have a lot of parents, you know, because they can work their kids' schedule basically, because it's, you know, 5.5 hour days for the part-time workers and all that stuff. So it was a lot of just digging in, and like Colonel Geyer said, the competition is brutal. Just for, you know, grocery stores, they'll pay $16. All the restaurants and resorts and all that kind of stuff. So it's a mixture of our, you know, what we offer time-wise. You're off on holidays and all that kind of stuff. So that's inviting to people. But you got to let them know that stuff up front. And then all the different things that we offer, and we take care of our employees. That's one of the biggest things. We do care about them and make sure they're being taken care of.
If I can add, I always stop in the dining facility whenever I visit schools. And without exceptions, when I go in and talk to your staff, I get very, very positive feedback. They're dedicated, they're positive, they're upbeat, and you know that makes a big difference when kids come in, you know, get their food and so on. So I've been very, very impressed.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
With what's been done.
Let me ask a question.
Yes, sir.
Then, is there what, you know, you and I and Ms. Otter and the Colonel have talked about having a joint meeting between ops and finance to share the learning, because we have staff shortages in other places. Would that be a way to, without exposing your quote unquote secret sauce that's peculiar to your company? That's a competitive thing you've identified.
We'd be happy to talk to them. Obviously, we're looking for totally different employees. So.
Yeah, totally different employee, but the way that you modified the protocol of Sodexo or Sodexo, right?
Sodexo.
I mean, that's Magic Johnson company used to be, and that's big.
They're big.
So you brought some things to play that they didn't. And so there may be an opportunity for us to learn from that. Is that okay?
to help.
Okay. No problem.
Everybody's coming in.
Are we ready?
Families don't have to work. I flipped the USB around. That ended up fixing it yesterday.
Don't hear any sound, so you'll mute mine.
Unmute one.
Care for
So go through there.
that work
So
for us,
unmute that one.
whether
All right, so it's this one, is it that one there? Is that your unmuting?
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, no, send it out.
I'll send it out. It's not a
Okay,
problem.
and we'll make sure you get another opportunity to come back.
That's fine.
And expand.
Anytime.
Is that fair?
Absolutely.
All right, we're moving on to debt service.
Okay.
May I request a motion on this OE and that this will need to go through committee to on the consent agenda. So there's a motion, recommended motion at the bottom of the second page of that report. And
Here it is.
this
And I
will
put it
need a
on the
member to make that motion.
Yes.
Yep. Ms. Hay, are you still with us and can make the motion?
Seriously.
And Ms. Gordon? Is Ms. Hay still there?
I am here. Hold on one second. You're in debt services, correct?
No, we are on the last page, food service, OE 18.
Oh, of food services. Okay, I'm sorry. I skipped ahead. Last page. Yes, I move to accept OE 18 monitoring report for school food services.
And you would like for it to go to the consent agenda?
Yes, please. Or do you need me to specifically state that?
I would
Never
like,
mind.
I'd like this to be part of your report. And I'd like to have this video showed.
Yeah, no issue.
Never mind.
We'll get you an opportunity, but we gotta move on.
Yeah, no, I completely understand.
Debt service, yes, sir. So this is the same update that I provided to the clock committee last night. This is a brief update of where we are with bond issues relating to the 2023 referendum. So back in August, we issued a $50 million bond anticipation note. So a bond anticipation note is borrowing 50 million on a short-term basis, less than 1 year. And you're anticipating it to be refinanced by a bond a year from now, basically. So that bond we had 8 bids, which is a very good number, very competitive. And it was a 3.15% interest rate back in August. So in January, we took a look at the bond market. We had prepared to plan to do a $182.5 million bond, which would pay off that band and then provide more cash flows going forward. However, the long-term bond market is not favorable was not favorable in January, still not in a good place now as well. A lot of changes in the stock market and the bond market was not at a good place from a long-term perspective. So we had to go back to the drawing board and modify our strategy. So we wanted to take advantage of short-term rates, which are a bit more in the 2 to 3% range, as opposed to 5 to 6% interest rates. So we decided as a financing team, both myself, a financial advisor, and our bond attorney decided to do another relatively short-term bond. We needed to, so the band is coming due next month in March. So we have to pay the whole thing off. And we have to have the cash in hand to be able to pay that off. So we issued a $50 million band to pay that off. That bond closes on February 15th. So I guess, I think it's closing today because I talked to Regions Bank today. So it might be the 13th or 14th. So it's 15th is a Saturday. That looked a little strange to me. But I did have a conversation with the banking agent today to finalize that closing. 7 bids were 7 companies bid on the bonds, 2.75% interest rate. It's going to pay off the band, so it's going into some, it's a complicated process, but it has a escrow involved there. They'll pay off the bonds fully in March. I guess they put it in escrow until the payment due date of March of 2025, which is incorrect on my summary there. And then in May and June, we're going to issue a permanent bond. So we have enough cash flows to hold us out until for the referendum until May or June. We're anticipating the bond rates to improve during the next few months, and then we'll issue 131 million. That'll be basically, that will cover the first year of the bond issue that we need to issue. We'll have 2 more, year 2 and 3, 1 year 2, 1 year 3, to finish out the remainder of the referendum. So we get the information we need as far as cash flows from the facilities office. They provide a schedule of what they're going to plan, what projects they're going to do and when the timing of that is. And so we use that data to build out when they need money. And this financing plan aligns perfectly with that. We always go on the conservative end, so we make sure we have a little more than they think they're going to need in case they get ahead of schedule. But we just monitor it on a regular basis. And lastly, credit ratings. Right when we came back from the break, we had 2 credit ratings. So we have phone calls with a Moody's representative in New York and then a Standard & Poor's representative. They ask a series of questions about your, it's different than just a FICO score. It's about how the growth in your community is, how your enrollment's doing, how you're being affected, what challenges you're experiencing in terms of revenue or enrollment or any other areas, the longevity of your CFO and your superintendent, how they're building, the success in the referendums that you had in the past. So it's a whole economic outlook of what your area looks like, the surrounding agencies, and what and especially what your fund balance looks like in the operations fund. So we were able to affirm the current rates of Moody's that issues a AA1 rate, S&P does AA, capital AA, and these rates are comparable to some of the highest rates. They are even with the highest rates in the state, including Greenville, Charleston, Berkeley, and others, a few others that hold that rate and as a school district. It's particularly challenging in our area because we don't have a lot of industry. Greenville has high rates and they have just a wide breadth of economic development and industry, as well as other types of economic benefits, I guess, in that area. So with that, this is just information. It does not require any action today of the board, but I just want to keep you in tune with the financing on the bonds, on the referendum projects, and keep you in line with the clock committee. And even though a few of you were there last night, but those of you viewing will be up to date as well. And then we do have a debt presentation by our financial advisor every year at the work session in March. So March 28th, I believe, is the date. And Brian Nurek will be here, and typically Freddie Heiser is here as well. And they will go into detail. We typically have about a half of a day with him, or a few hours with him, and then a few hours on the budget that day as well. So he'll go into minute detail about the strategy, where we are, what tax revenues recently look like in the debt service fund, which we'll get here shortly as well with the operations, and what we can foresee in the future. So how we can continue to do more projects, hopefully without a tax increase. And if the board so chooses, and at some point in the future, and how we continue our 8% bond projects as well. So that concludes my presentation.
Okay. Ms. Hay?
Ms. Hay has left.
Okay. Ms. Gordon is not here. Okay, and we don't require a motion or anything like this. This is
No,
just.
sir, just
presentation.
information.
Thank you. Very good presentation last night and excellent data to share today. Colonel Guy, anything? Dr. Carr?
This was really helpful. I enjoyed it a lot. Thanks. No questions, no.
Thank you, sir. Future topics. I got three that I took notes on. One is, discussion of AI, integration of that into the way we do business for more efficiency.
Other than the standard reports, I don't have anything new at this time. Typically, we take everything with the budget to the full board there, and there's not much new thing, typically that work session comes right after we get tax revenue, so that is the most current information we have. And if we reported on budget a week later or two at the committee, it'd be the same information. So unless this committee would like to dive deeper or do something, with that information, we'll be happy to do that. But at this time, I just have standard reports, and we'll bring back the current report with the variances with colors and maybe categorize them and maybe propose a consolidation of format or something if we were able to get that done before that time. So we'll focus on that. And I think we also have another pretty large task, and that is looking at the maintenance, potentially looking at a different structure of that work as well. So we're going to be working on that project for the operations committee. So
You got a full load.
yes, sir.
And will you consider bringing in external people like you did with Professor Swift?
Can certainly do that. Yes.
Yeah. Maybe not him, but someone that gives us that third party.
Sure. Yes. This one will be a little different because custodial has staffing at every individual school. Maintenance doesn't currently do it quite that way. So we've got to use the structure we have and modify it a little bit and figure out how we're going to do that.
Sounds good. Colonel, any more? Ms. Gordon? Any future topics? Dr. Carr, did you weigh in, sir?
I think a continued discussion on stipends and how they work and how they're realized and all of that probably would be beneficial.
Okay, so we'll tee that up at a measured pace. That's okay. And get these big ones out of it. Is that all right? All right. Okay, Ms. Hamlin, you didn't say much.
I like to listen. I listen and learn every time.
All right, is there support for adjournment by consensus? Unanimous? Okay, done. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And we'll get you in front of the board.
No worries.
I
Be more than happy to.
understand.
This is-
Challenges also. So